Welcome to ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. My name is Alice Li Hagan. Welcome to our weekly conversation with thought leaders, inspiring educators who contribute to the social, economic, and cultural well-being of our state. Today, I have three experts in information technology and cybersecurity. Well, let me introduce all of them to you. First to my left is Steve Auerbach. He is the Executive Director of the Pacific Center of Advanced Technology and Training. And then we have Captain Clifford Bean, who is the Commander of the National Security Agency here in Hawaii. And last but not least, Jodi Ito. She is the Security Information Officer at the University of Hawaii Systems. I hope I got all of them right. Well, thank you so much again for coming to the show. And of course, let me get to Steve first, because I know I invited you to the show a couple of months ago. And then we had a lot of email exchanges, and then you said you're going to bring in some industry partners. So here we are, three of us. Now, first off, Steve, tell us about PCAT, or the Pacific Center for Advanced Technology Training. And I know you've only been the ED there since December 2014, right?
Correct. Yeah, no, thank you for having me today. And as you indicated, it was a journey getting Captain Bean and Jodi together with our calendars, but I think it's a great opportunity for us to talk about what's going on here in the state and security. So my organization is part of a 7 community college consortium here in the state. We are required for providing advanced tech training across the state of Hawaii. Areas that we're focused on, cybersecurity, programming. We also do project management, anything that industry and government is looking for in their workforce from a development standpoint. We also have to do, we do all of our continuing education, so non-credit courses. And one of the big things that we're trying to push forward in our strategic plan is how do we get non-credit to credit pathways. So if an individual wants a exposure to cybersecurity, it may not be considering a credit program. They can get exposed to cybersecurity and then go into a credit program or go into the workforce. That's one of the big initiatives we're focused on. And then the largest thing is really how do we expose across the state to different tech trends, and how do we get the workforce developed.
Wow, very rich conversation ahead. But I know, Steve, before you came to this position, you were at Hewlett-Packard for about 20 years, and you have had various executive positions. So I guess you're well suited for this. And then I guess maybe next, I'd like to turn to Captain Bean. You've been commissioned with the U.S. Navy since 1990, and you've had completed various assignments in, if you could help me with that.
Like where I've been? Or?
Yes.
Yes, and so I've served here in Hawaii twice. I've served in Maryland and Puerto Rico on 3 different naval ships, 5 years in Japan on 2 different tours. And I just most recently came from NSA headquarters and have been out here for a year.
Well, thank you for your service. But how are you partnering with PCAT then?
Okay, so our mission up at NSA Hawaii is really threefold. We do signals intelligence for the nation, and we do information assurance, both of which enable cybersecurity on behalf, what we do is on behalf of the Department of Defense. But I have a highly technical workforce up there, civilian and military, and we're hiring, right? We need folks with these computer security skills, and I would love to hire local. So we started an outreach in the fall, working with Steve and Jodi and a bunch of others, to how can we grow the interest of young people in STEM education, and then at the universities to bolster their programs and then hire their students.
Well, I guess in some way I have an ulterior motive. Of course, when I heard about workforce development, well, my son is just started high school. I said, oh, okay, that's something to know more about, that maybe I could plant a seed in him. But
definitely.
let me turn to Jodi. So you are part of the University of Hawaii system.
Yes.
So how do you work with PCAT and with Steve then?
So actually, I'm the Information Security Officer for the University of Hawaii system, which makes me sort of responsible for protecting all of the university's information assets. So I try to prevent data breaches. We try to educate people on how they need to secure the data, what kind of what we call good computing habits, on all of that. But the other thing I've been working with most recently is developing the cybersecurity education programs with the University of Hawaii. So we have 7 community colleges and 3 four-year campuses. The goal is to allow students to move through the community college system into either the 4-year programs or into the research area. But also, if from the 2-year side, if they just wanted to go into the workforce, we want to provide those opportunities. So it's about how do we create these meaningful pathways all the way through the University of Hawaii system in cybersecurity. You know, as a cybersecurity professional working for the university, I often have to hire, and I don't get a security person. I get a network administrator, I get a system administrator, but they don't have the focus on the security that I think we need. So it's very important to me that we do this at the university, and that's actually how I got to work with these 2 gentlemen here. Is, you know, I think we have the singular focus of doing that workforce development. Tell your son that he probably has a job if he goes into this field.
All right.
Because there is a shortage of workers, skilled workers. And if you think about it, every device we touch nowadays has a technology component, and it has a security component to it. Your smartphone, right? Your iPads, even in terms of your car, now they have like Wi-Fi for cars.
Yes.
So all of these things, it's what they call the Internet of Things, where, you know, that's the kinds of things that I'm worried about.
Well, I know from all your brief introduction, you're all really eager to talk about workforce development, fostering, fostering youngsters to get into this field. But before we do that, I know you also mentioned about data protection, cybersecurity. So maybe we can start off by talking a little bit about that. Oh, before I forget, of course, Jodi, you were also involved in oversee the recent, cyber exercise with the Coast Guard.
Correct. So the University of Hawaii has what we call a cyber range, and that's the ability to simulate business environments and then allow, you know, we set up simulated websites or simulated email servers, and then have, we call them white hat attackers, try and come in to breach those systems, and then we have the actual people try to defend against it. So it's a simulated cyber attack that gives people the opportunity to see, 1, what it looks like, and 2, how do you defend against it. And we just did this for the Coast Guard in January, and it was pretty successful. We brought in the U.S. Coast Guard. They were our primary sponsors of the event, but we brought in the port tenants, so that was the shipping companies, the tug and barge companies, the cruise companies, all so that they could be in this environment and experience it. And I think they were a little overwhelmed, because normally you don't see an attack unfold in like a day. It's a prolonged period of time, low and slow. But this time they were like, oh my God, that's what an attack looks like. So it was a very eye-opening experience.
Oh, fantastic. I hope this is going to be an annual event then.
So in June, actually, we're hosting another cybersecurity exercise with the National Guard as part of a multi-state National Guard exercise. And so it's a multi-pronged event. So the hurricane exercise, Makani Pahili, is also part of the cybersecurity. So the hurricane hits, it takes out some information systems, and then we get a cyber attack. So how do you defend against that? And that's actually pretty real life nowadays. Once there's a major catastrophe, then we see a lot of fraud, a lot of phishing, and then also people trying to break into systems, because basically your defenses are weakened.
I think this is a good way to come back to Captain Bean to start talking about cybersecurity. So I understand that this is a very new area. And of course, the more recent high-profile cases that we've heard about would be Target, Sony Pictures. But if you could elaborate a little bit more about what exactly are we looking at? What is cybersecurity, cybercrime?
So I think that it's really the fact that we are largely becoming networked. Everything is networked. Our homes, as Jodi said, our cars. And so that is an opportunity. I mean, it's just wonderful the way we're doing things. In the ports, we've gone to, automating the way we move containers, because the technology allows us to do that.
efficiency, right?
So those are opportunities, but often we're doing that to make it work, but not necessarily doing so with security in mind. So getting us, setting up a network so that it works in your home is relatively easy. Setting it up so that it operates security requires a little bit more thought. So really, the term cybersecurity, I guess, is how I would characterize that, what is happening in business. I pay attention a lot to the predictions, like McAfee's predictions or Symantec's predictions. And this year, Gartner was one of those that we looked at pretty hard. They predicted that this year, whereas heretofore we've really seen actors doing spear phishing to try and send you an email that looks valid, maybe from a credit card company or somebody you do business with, and then an embedded link, and you click on it and it affects your computer. Really focused on individuals, and they spam that out to a large number of people just looking for someone to latch onto that bait. Gartner said they believe in 2015 we're going to see a trend shift there, a phase shift where it's going to be more focused on business to try and go after more money and get more for their, more bang for their buck. So I think that's critical for us all to pay attention to, because economically it could really hurt us.
Now, there are so many different questions I can ask based on that, but now you're talking from switching from individual to business. So what type of businesses are we looking at then?
I think the gambit. I think the banking industry is probably the most lucrative, but they, I believe, have caught on, quicker than most that they need to get involved. What concerns me the most is our critical infrastructure, our power companies, our banks, our hospitals. But I think that the target will be who they can get money off of. It is money driven. Although from a nation state perspective, we watch many actors that intentionally are looking at our infrastructure, and we've never seen them do us harm. But with they're collecting the right information that we believe that they could be planning to do us harm. And that is a grave concern to the U.S. government.
Let's stay with that topic for a little while. You're talking about the security of the nation, and I know that you've spoken at the FCA conference, and I've read a little bit, and the prediction is pretty grim. I mean, like what you said, that, okay, now the target is more focused on businesses. But what about nationally and even globally? What kind of threats are they looking at? And I guess from the perspective of the U.S. government, what are we doing to try to secure ourselves?
So I think that it's the full gambit. So you have folks that are doing this for crime, to steal money, but then you have higher end threats that are looking at our national security. And we have to understand all of that. Where I see the trend going, though, so first of all, this is a private-public partnership. The government can't do it all. Our critical infrastructure is owned by private industry, especially if you look here in Hawaii. Those companies we care about their security just as much as we do about the DoD, because we all rely on them. But where I think this is going in the United States, Sony was a great example. They were insured for $60 million and lost $240 million. And I believe what we're going to see in the United States is insurance companies start to charge businesses, including small businesses, a higher insurance rate if they don't have a strong cybersecurity program on their networks. And when that happens, cybersecurity as a discipline is going to go vertical as far as the demand. And so for the state of Hawaii, I believe it's an imperative that we grow cybersecurity professionals here, so that we have local people here that can do that work for Bank of Hawaii, for HECO, for all of that critical infrastructure. If not, we're going to pay either higher insurance rates or pay a premium to bring people from the mainland to do that defense. And that just is going to drive the cost of living even worse. So it is an imperative for the state, not just for the federal government, that we grow this expertise.
Okay. Since you talked about this locally, the state of Hawaii. Steve, let me go back to you. So again, Captain Bean has been talking about training the workforce, but what's your perspective on this then?
Yeah, no, Captain is spot on. When we get out and talk with the CIO Council, for example, here in the state, the biggest issue that the CIOs and CSOs are facing is security. And It's on their radar. They're looking for talent. They know there's a shortage for the high-skilled talent. And ideally, we'd like to keep the skill set here in Hawaii. And so that's why this partnership is so important. We have some work that we're doing with NSA. There's this Center of Academic Excellence. So at the 2-year university, college level, we've gotten that designation, and we're looking to do that at the 4-year university as well.
So actually, we actually did receive the Center
There
of
we go.
Academic Excellence designation for cyber defense research. So we are on our way. So
Right on.
it's a great thing. It provides us more opportunities, and it really does highlight the fact that the university does have this cybersecurity capability in terms of education and development.
Yeah, and so what's important about that statement is at the 2-year level, at the 4-year level, and UH West Hawaii is also applying for it, think about the industry and government. Where are they going to go to get this training? Well, they're going to go to those areas that have academic excellence, right? And so that's a key component of what we're delivering.
I'm curious about that designation. So is this a national designation? Are there, or I should say, are there universities on the mainland who are doing something similar?
Yes, so this is an NSA certification, and we have a group of folks that work this full time to understand the curricula at these schools. It is voluntary. The schools apply, and then we review their curricula, review their professors to see if they have the credibility in their instructors. And so it is a big deal. It is not easy. So congratulations to both Honolulu Community College and to UH Manoa for getting that certification. But so we have that across the United States, and any college across the United States can apply. I don't remember the exact numbers of how many have applied, but it's growing. So we have three certifications, or Centers of Academic Excellence programs at NSA that apply to this topic. One of those is in research for cyber defense research. One of those is in cyber defense, and one of those is in cyber operations. And so we have 2 of those here in Hawaii now at a 2-year level and a 4-year level, and we're working to bring a visiting professor to the university to benefit all of the university system to help write that curricula to get the other 2 out here as well.
Now, my last question before the break, it's such a new area. How are you able to get experts to come in to talk about the subject? Is that a challenging thing to do?
The example that Captain just referenced, bringing in somebody from NSA, from Maryland,
Yes, Fort Meade, Maryland.
Fort Meade, they can come in here and help infiltrate with work with our professors. That's one approach. I would argue that our professors at the community college level in the 4-year are also peaked, and demonstrated by these 2 designations we've got. So it's constant and continual partnerships with government. Is constant and continued partnership on furthering our education. But I feel strong that the 2-year level and the 4-year level, we've got the capability.
That's fantastic. Well, let's take a break, and then after I come back, I think I'd like to talk a little bit more about cybersecurity and small businesses and how it really affects individuals. So thank you. We'll come back from our break. My guest is Steve Auerbach. He is the Executive Director of PCAT, which stands for Pacific Center for Advanced Technology Training, and Captain Clifford Bean. He is the Commander of the National Security Agency in Hawaii, and Jodi Ito, Jodi Ito, the Information Security Officer at the University of Hawaii Systems. You're watching ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. We'll be right back from the break.
Li Hagan, President of the Grassroots Institute and host on Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. Ehana Kako means let's work together. Think of the sad alternative, let's not work together. Here in Hawaii, with all of our diversity and the richness of the people, it's important for us to come together around issues on the basis of what's right and what's good and what's going to serve the common good. And that's what we try to do at Ehana Kako. Every week we interview movers and shakers, people in government, business, and other sectors of society to talk about how to create together a better government, economy, a better world here in Hawaii that can bless the rest of the world. I thank you for your attention to ThinkTech Hawaii, and we look forward to seeing you every Monday, 2 to 3 p.m. on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. We're Ehana Kako, and we wish you well. Aloha.
Welcome back to ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. If you're just joining us, we've been talking about cybersecurity and our workforce development in this area. My guests today are Steve Auerbach. He is the Executive Director for PCAT, which stands for Pacific Center for Advanced Technology and Training. Captain Clifford Bean, he is the Commander of the National Security Agency here in Hawaii, and Jodi Ito, Information Security Officer at the University of Hawaii Systems. So before the break, we were talking about cybersecurity, how it affects the nation, businesses, and individuals. And of course, the partnership among the three organizations that you represent are trying to develop workforce so that we will have people to secure our nation, businesses, and all the things that we do, that we rely on technology and mobile devices. So Captain, let's go back to your point about, before the break, we also talked about the curriculum and trying to move from a 2-year program to 4-year program. So would you like to share with us some more about that perspective? How do we feed the pipeline? I mean, we're just talking about higher education, but what about prior to that, high school, middle school levels?
So thank you. I do think that the University of Hawaii system and the way it is tied together is a strength for the state, and how that these two programs could feed us. But there are decisions that are made at the middle school level and high school level with respect to the type of math that you take, with the courseware that you take as a student, that is important in order that they show up ready to go to work at one of our community colleges or at our 4-year universities. So we are also looking to do high school outreach to get students interested at a young level in technical degrees, with a heavy focus on young ladies, because there are not enough women in technical degrees. And so we want to get out early and help educate them that this is fun work that they should consider.
Could you tell us a little bit more how you do the outreach, especially with young people, knowing that their attention span is really, really limited? So, and how do you get more girls into, I guess, STEM?
So I think we can start with modeling the robotics program. That has been very, very successful. If you think about it, now we have these huge competitions over spring breaks, where all the schools come together and all the students are very energetic. And I think that's where it starts, is you get them interested, doing cool stuff, and show them that it's not just, sitting in front of a computer, but how it really affects us in everyday lives. So if we can help them there and understand that, then I think if we model the robotics things and create that interest moving forward, I think then we can pull them into the pipeline. But I will defer to you about our upcoming event this summer.
Yeah, so we, in that vein, we are participating, we're bringing to the audience something called Gen Cyber, a Gen Cyber camp. And I'm sorry if I'm getting ahead of you, but
no,
the
that's
Gen Cyber
camp
is a program that NSA started just a couple years ago. Last year we had 6 across the nation. This year we're going to have over 40. And so we are going to bring 2 of those through this partnership, 2 of those camps to Oahu in July. And so that is another way to get students, high school students, and teachers interested in this subject.
Could you tell us a little bit about what's involved in the camp?
Sure. And it's another proof point around how do we engage early and often at the high school level. So we'll have one camp focused on students, private and public, homeschool, 9th to 12th grade, so up to 60 students will participate. We'll also have another camp, and it'll be the same location, 30 teachers across the state, public, private. And the goal is really to engage them into some hands-on, like Jodi talked about, practical experiences around security. And we're going to make it themed, so it's not sitting in front of a computer and banging out code. It's going through scavenger hunts. It's going to find out how to hack somebody's computer ethically.
How do you hide data in a picture?
How do you hide data?
Okay.
And the curriculum we're getting from all this is in partnership with NSA, as well as the instructors we have at the 4-year and 2-year universities and colleges. And ultimately, the goal for the high school students and the teachers is that we can infiltrate them with exposure to this. They can take it back into that fun. They'll take it back to their campus, their schools, and then start propagating it. And then hopefully next year we do it again.
Wow, That's an excellent program. Well, I gotta spread the word as well. It sounds really exciting. Now, for some, since this is going to be the first time here in Hawaii, I'm just curious for other programs that you've done on the mainland. What is some of the feedback that you've received from kids who have gone through the camp? Any
So I think it's
ideas?
very, very good. They're
Mhm,
fun,
mhm.
and that's important to keep their attention. It's not anybody lecturing at you. It's activities. So we've had very positive feedback, and we allow the universities to design the curriculum. So
Oh.
they're all different,
Yes.
and so we'll bring best practices and
Yes.
things we think are really cool.
Okay.
But we really want, and these two teammates have brought that to this program to design a curriculum that fits Hawaii, that fits the students here.
So what would be unique to Hawaii then, Steve and Jodi?
I think the first thing we're focused on is we looked at what was going on across the different schools that did it last year, and we took the best of the best there. And then knowing our audience in the state here in Hawaii, we said, you know what, let's step it up around this scavenger hunt.
Oh,
And so that was a unique
Right,
idea that
totally.
came. And it's going to be bookmarked at the beginning where we talk about what are some of the objectives of the scavenger hunt. And then the last day, the culmination, after they've gone through 5 days worth of hands-on experience, they're going to put that to use and do the scavenger hunt. And in that scavenger hunt, they have an opportunity to earn points and tokens. And we're going to make that a fun activity and competitive activity. And then at the end of it, have a celebration where we invite family and their friends to say, hey, look what this team did, look what this individual did.
So how many students and teachers do you think will sign up? Oh, you said there are only 30 slots for
Teachers and
teachers.
64 students, and
Okay.
actually all the student slots have been filled, and
Oh
so
my
but we're
gosh.
still taking registrations
are.
and things. You know, normally there's some attrition, but the teacher side, I believe, is almost full. I think it was about 25 or so today. So registration is open till May 8th, I believe, and so we're taking them all though. And even if they didn't get it this year, we will take their information and make sure that they get the information next year. We are totally looking forward to doing this again.
And it's the week of July 13th.
Okay.
8:30 to 3:30. It'll be at Honolulu Community College. And it's in partnership with NSA, it's in partnership with DOE, it's in
Yes.
partnership with UH Manoa. And-
Hawaii Association of Independent Schools, right? So,
Wow.
and we're also engaging with some of our industry partners, the security professionals too. There's an organization called Cyber Patriots that actually has teams in schools already to foster cybersecurity. And there's also industry professionals that actually go to the schools and help that program out. So we'd like to continue building this whole thing together so that we can create a sustainable cybersecurity environment for the students.
And the other benefit about this is to what Captain Bean was talking about. If we engage them early in STEM activity,
Yes.
which this is, right? The hope is that they're going to either enter a 2-year or 4-year program. They may step off that bus and go into the workforce, hopefully NSA Hawaii or some other private industry.
Okay.
They may go back on the bus to get some
Right.
more, education, and then we call that pathways with purpose. And I
Right.
think there's a cool and a nice approach to engaging them early and often.
Wow. I guess you have activities for younger people, and then you have all this curriculum research designation of Center for Excellence for higher education. But at the end, I mean, we've talked about it. You're looking for people with a STEM background, but is there a personality or qualification, or I should say, type of person who are more suited for work in cybersecurity?
I would say no.
Oh, okay.
I think that there are opportunities for every different type of personality. There are spaces for the very technical people that's going to be hands-on and digging in deep, or there are people that need to be out, doing the awareness, talking about it, driving policies, talking to your executives. And so there's places along the spectrum for everybody.
Okay. Now, if there is something the state could do, at the end, I guess we've mentioned it several times, this is a really, really new area. If there's something the state could do, our say, Department of Education could do, what would it be? How can we support all these initiatives that you are developing?
Well, I think they are starting to do that
Yes.
with this partnership on the Gen Cyber Camp. Jodi talked earlier about the robotics. We're doing some other things with Apple, Apple Institute. We're doing some more things on IT Symposium, and we're engaging the DOE statewide as well as the private schools statewide. And so I think they are actively participating. And it's important that we continue to do more of this so that, like Captain Bean said early on, we're going to engage them into STEM activities, and hopefully then they choose what they want to do, career or more education.
Right. Tell us a little bit more about the Apple Institute. I read a little bit about that. I mean, you've got so many programs going on, and I guess this information is all new to me.
Yes, so the Apple Summer Institute is also happening at Honolulu Community College, and it's a goal that Captain Bean talked about. How do we, from a STEM level, engage students and instructors early and often? And we're partnering with Apple, and it's an intensive week, middle of May, where we go everything from iMovie to the new watch that came out.
Oh, okay.
How do you bring the technology to the classroom? What's some curriculum that's been best practices across the United States? And it's a strong partnership with Apple where they're doing this across the United States as well. And uniquely, we're bringing it here to Hawaii, and it's the 13th year.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, let's take a break, but I know that before the first break, I was hoping to talk a little bit more about cybersecurity and its implication on individuals. So we'll go on a second break and then we'll come back. My guests have been Steve Auerbach. He is the Executive Director of Pacific Center for Advanced Technology Training. Captain Clifford Bean, he is the Commander of National Security Agency of Hawaii, and Jodi Ito, Information Security Officer of University of Hawaii Systems. You've been watching ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. We'll be right back.
Aloha, my name is Paul Jackson, better known as PJ, and my local interest is in sports. I have my own sports radio show at KWAI AM 1080 that you can stream live. I also have my own website, pjsportsradio.com. We have live guests in studio, and we talk about discussions and topics that everyone wants to know locally here on the islands. We cover everything from surfing to basketball to whatever's going on locally, sports-wise. We try to do our best and cover the topics in depth as much as we can. Once again, thank you for joining PJ here on Hawaii Sports Update. Mahalo.
Welcome back to ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. My name is Alice Li Hagan. If you are just joining us, my guests are Jodi Ito, Information Security Officer at the University of Hawaii Systems, Captain Clifford Bean, Commander of the National Security Agency in Hawaii, and Steven Auerbach. He is the Executive Director of PCAT. Now, Jodi, let's go back to cybersecurity and why it is important here to University of Hawaii. Maybe I can start off by saying that, yes, recently I had to go back to the help desk because I guess my email address was compromised.
Did you respond to a phishing email?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
But anyway, they were really helpful.
Right.
They said, okay, you have to change your password and all that. So that's as far as I know, but it's good to know that there is somebody taking care of the system. So why is it important
So
for us?
cybersecurity is important for everybody to understand, just because, as I mentioned before, it touches us in every aspect of our lives. Our emails, if our email accounts are compromised now, if a hacker comes into it, they now can send a whole bunch of spam email to all of your personal contacts. Your personal contacts receive it, and they believe it's from you, so there's a trust relationship that's now being violated, and they can do all kinds of things. So one of our staff actually got an email or got a phone call from her aunt because her personal email account was compromised, and said the hacker went in and sent an email to all of her personal contacts and said, hi, I'm stuck here, can you please send me money because I need to get home. And that person was going to send money but decided to call her instead. And that's the only way that the staff knew that her personal email account was compromised. But it's not just that. It's about understanding how we use the technology and what parts of it are secure or not secure. And that's a harder concept because we expect our phones to be secure. It's a device, we just want it to work. But with that, if your phone is compromised, you lose access to probably your email, you lose access to all of your personal contacts, things like that. But more importantly, for the university, cybersecurity is very important as a growth area in both the producing that educated workforce, but also in research. There are so many different things coming up all the time. The security of our electric grid, of our water system, remote drone systems, so telescope systems. If you think about every place that uses technology, this is why the university has to be so involved in it.
I guess we don't really think about that. The grid.
No. Water supply, right? What if your sewer system goes offline and they redirect that sewer flow in places you really don't want it to be, right? Hacking into the phone system.
That's really grim. Captain Bean, let's come back to you because I remember, Jodi, thank you, because I remember, again, at the FCA conference, you mentioned that cyber attack is probably the top concerns nationwide. And earlier on, I guess we talked about, now it eludes me, but the question is, okay, who is trying to get into the system? Are these people in the US? Are these foreigners? Who are they?
I think it's across the globe. We pay attention to the most dangerous threats first, obviously, but it is the gambit. I don't think that there's a country in the world, although there probably is, but it is across the globe. And our companies like ThinkTech and other network security and antivirus, they'll track that. They keep good statistics on that are available on the internet. But again, the purpose ranges from crime to stealing secrets, stealing trade secrets. So we have often referred to this as the greatest transfer of human wealth over the last 10 years, as other countries have stolen our companies' intellectual property and then use that to build products and sell them to us cheaper than we can produce them in America. And that affects all of us, right?
So one anecdotal story is a colleague up in a university in the mainland said a faculty member had gone to patent their research. By the time they went to patent it, it was already patented. Somebody stole his intellectual property and registered it. So now for him to continue the research, he had to license that information back.
Wow.
So universities are always under attack just for that reason, all of the intellectual property that's developed there.
Steve, let's come back to you. Now, we've talked about training for younger people from middle school, high school to university, but I presume that you talked about non-degree programs earlier on, so I presume you have training for people, professionals who are working. So why would they come to you for training? Is it because something has happened, or is it a preventative measure?
All the above, and it's incumbent workers, it's people trying to change careers, it's people trying to retool their skill set to stay ahead of the competition, to stay ahead from a competitive standpoint, so all the above. And what we're finding here in the state from a technology standpoint, I think I mentioned briefly, it's programming, it's project management, it's big data or data analysis, and security. Those are the key areas here in the state that we're looking for, where I'm hearing is the demand.
Let's talk a little bit about small business. I know that before the show, we talked about big companies, but with small businesses, what are some of the challenges there? Because at the end, for our state, most of our businesses are on the small, medium size. So what are they doing to protect their data, their cybersecurity for them?
So small and medium businesses are targeted primarily because they do not have the staff resources or the knowledge about how they need to secure their server or secure their email server. So a lot of times they go through consulting firms or hosted services for that, and they rely on somebody else to protect that information. But because they don't know how to protect it and they don't have the staff, that's a very easy target for an attacker to get into there and then try and leverage that to get elsewhere. So I think a lot of the big companies like Target and Home Depot, they were actually infiltrated through a small consulting firm or somebody that they had a subcontract with, and that's their method of entry into their breach. That was one of the reasons for their breach.
Okay, so if there's a breach, if there's cybersecurity or cybercrime, what is the penalty for that?
Depends if they're caught.
Oh, okay.
Well, I know all of us have probably had a personal experience where our private data has been compromised. Recently, my children's Social Security number via the Anthem Blue Cross situation on the West Coast.
Actually, children's information is most valuable, so that goes for a higher price on the black market just because it's unlikely to be detected for a longer period of time, right? Do you check your children's credit report? No, right? So in terms of identity theft, the children's information is much more valuable.
Wait, Jodi, you were saying that it's more valuable.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So if a hacker has a child's Social Security number, name, address, they can apply for loans, they can get credit cards, they can use the credit of that individual for a longer period of time without being detected. Often adults, if our identity is compromised, we'll find out because a credit company will call us, you know, we'll be delinquent on our payments, we'll find out somehow. But children don't have that credit responsibility yet.
Okay. Now, we've been talking about how we deal with, I guess, breach of privacy information. One question that I recall that I thought about is, well, there's a cultural aspect to it, I think, protecting information. But for other countries, and perhaps, Captain, this would be a question for you. If you work with, I guess, your international counterparts, what are some of their concerns? Do they share similar issues with what we have here in the U.S.?
I think it's a global threat from actor perspective, but also for people who are concerned about it. And so we do share quite a bit as an agency with all of our allies and partners. One of the things, if you go to NSA.gov, we will identify software packages that we feel are the most secure, so that anyone in the globe can say, hey, I want to configure my network more securely. We'll give them that. The other thing I'd point to that is really easy, but you'd be surprised at how few people do it. We have something on that website called our top 10 mitigations. That are the top 10 things you can do to secure your network. And it mirrors very closely another good source, which is SANS, S-A-N-S. They have a top 20. If you fix the top 20 things of these easy things, it will give you like a 95%, defensible rate of, there's some metric they apply to that. And so we find often if we just did the simple hygiene things, that's the majority of the problem.
I'm sorry, simple hygiene things referring
like
to...
requiring longer passwords and complicated passwords.
Patching your computers.
And having your computers patched up to date, right? Otherwise waiting and not updating. Companies that have gone to thin client, I think, have found it more defensible because you can patch centrally and push it out to all of the thin clients, so you're not having to go to each individual box to update. So I think there are some great resources out there, but it is a global issue, and I think every country in the world is concerned about it because it's economic.
Now, it's, I guess, fighting cybercrime, you have the good guys, the bad guys. So I guess to put it simply, are we catching up to the hackers, the people trying to break the law? How well are we doing in that sense?
I think we're doing a better job than we were before.
Okay.
If I talk to my law enforcement counterparts, and they are getting training, they're pursuing investigations. I'm seeing a lot more arrests or a lot more cases that are making it into trial.
Okay.
So I think we're doing a much better job at it. Of course, there's going to be a lot more that we have to do, but it's a good upward trend.
Now, I know there was a few seconds of silence there.
We're more focused on the preventative and not so much the going out and catching the thieves.
Oh, okay.
That's why there was a bit of a pause.
Okay.
So also, our authorities as a national security agency are not domestic. We are solely focused on foreign. So we pay attention to what is happening globally in the cyber threat arena, what's the latest malware, those type of things. But we don't really have any authorities to do anything domestically. We have a close partnership with the FBI, so that if it's a U.S. company, we can hand that off, and under their authorities, they can help us. That's why I paused. But I also think that it is very difficult, and it is transnational, and it's very difficult to know where the threat is coming from, and they can mask where they're coming from. So it is a very difficult challenge. I think our law enforcement's doing a much better job and focusing on domestic folks. But when the threat's coming from another country, it quickly becomes complicated, and the volume is such that you could not go after every case.
Right. Wow, that would be a very, very complicated issue to tackle. But I'm so glad that all three of you came, because with your partnership and all the education outreach programs that you are doing to get young people to be interested in technology or to do something related to cybersecurity, the Gen Cyber Camp, I'll be sure to have my son sign up. But I really look forward to hearing more about the programs, and I think it is something that more people here in the state should know about. So thank you so much. Good to have you all.
Thank you, Alice.
Thank
you.
My guests have been Steve Auerbach, the Executive Director of PCAT, Captain Clifford Bean, the Commander of the National Security Agencies in Hawaii, and Jodi Ito. She is the Security Information Officer at the University of Hawaii Systems. You've been watching ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. Please do join us next week. Aloha.